Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Either you are a caregiver or you will be a caregiver. So David Nassaney wants you to reclaim your sanity. David, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, David, did I read in your book correctly, and your book is It's My Life Too, 1/3 of the population in the U.S. is currently caring for a loved one?
Yes.
One out of every three. That's amazing.
Yes, that number is probably higher, but that's only the official number.
Okay.
Because think about it. Your neighbor asks you to, bring in the paper or help you, do the laundry or something like that. That's caregiving, but that isn't reported.
Now, you also mentioned that we think of obviously the person who needs care as the person who is ill or needs some help. But caregiver burnout is really at an epidemic proportions, according to what I'm reading in your book. Is that also correct?
It is. Not only are 1/3 of the population caregivers, but 1/3 of the caregivers actually die before their loved ones do. And that's a statistic that it's hard to get your mind wrapped around.
Well, that is, and I actually had to write it down because just to picture that, and you do mention that being a caregiver and the strain that the caregiver goes through can actually shorten their life by something like 4 to 8 years. Did I get the numbers right?
Absolutely. And not only do 30% of them become, die before their loved ones do, but another 60%, so that's 6 out of 10, will actually become sicker, likely hospitalized, and eventually needing a caregiver of their own. So, that only leaves 10% of caregivers who are really doing the right thing or are healthy, putting their needs first and all that stuff. That's pretty sad. Sounds like an epidemic to me.
It definitely does. Now, you tell us in your book there are 3 types of people. Do you know what I'm referring to?
I do.
Okay. Do you want to tell our audience?
Yes. So either you are a caregiver like me, or you are going to become a caregiver. It won't take long, because if anyone has elderly parents or baby boomer parents, they're starting to get into their 80s and 90s. One fall and boom, you are a caregiver overnight. And the third kind of people, you're going to need a caregiver. So you see, there's no escaping it. Caregiving is going to touch you in one form or another.
Now, and I guess you mentioned parents, but I guess the other side of it is it could be your spouse, and in a way that's a good thing. You've lived a good long life, etc. But one spouse needs the other and needs their help, and as time goes on, one is taking care of the other. Just by a natural progression, yes. I guess, that is either one or the other is going to need a little more care, and one's going to be the caregiver and the caretaker, I guess.
That's true. Before one of them becomes an official caregiver, with cancer or Alzheimer's or a broken hip or whatever, usually they're starting to take care of themselves because they're moving a little slower, they've got arthritis, maybe one needs help getting up, or they feel unbalanced. So when the official disability actually occurs, yes, they are officially a spousal caregiver. And a lot of times, they talk about the sandwich generation, where you have you're still taking care of your children, and your parents need caregiving. So now you're taking care of your kids and your parents, and there's generally a role reversal. The parents start acting like kids, and you start acting like a parent to them. Dad, you can't drive anymore. I'm going to have to take the keys away. No, that kind of thing. And then sometimes you become a club sandwich where you got the kids and the parents, and then in addition to that, your wife has a stroke or something like that. So many caregivers are not only taking care of one person, many 2, sometimes 3, and sometimes more.
And people may feel, gee, this is an unusual topic for the secrets of success. But really, in the world we live in today, it's something we all have to address, because very often that caregiver cannot give up their daily work to do this. They have a profession. They may have obligations. Right. They may have commitments. They're chairman of a board. They may be a member of different committees. And for part of their personal growth, they have to stay with that. So they're trying to do that as well as become a caregiver. And when we're talking about illnesses, Because I think most of us think of giving care to someone who has, let's say, the Alzheimer's disease. But what are the span of diseases we're talking about here?
Oh, my gosh, they're endless. And I was going to say before you mentioned that just like everybody knows someone who's going through cancer, right? I think that's safe to say. More so, everyone knows a caregiver. You just might not realize they're a caregiver because they suffer silently. So some of the diseases or infirmities or disabilities, well, you've got cancer, you've got Parkinson's, you've got Alzheimer's, you've got Lou Gehrig's disease, you've got ALS, you've got post-traumatic stress syndrome, you've got the children, autism, Down syndrome, just all of the host of variety of disabilities that plague children. You've got stroke, you've got heart attack. I mean, Bill, the list literally is endless.
Now, if we know someone like that, and again, sometimes we see someone with the children, they seem well-behaved, they're good. It's like, yes. Okay, they're a parent, they're the children. Yes, they have an illness, but that's like a checkbox to the rest of us because we're not with them all day. Are there some things that we can do as friends, neighbors, coworkers that would help make their world a little easier? Yes.
Like I said, they are the silent sufferers. There's 3 huge mistakes, to borrow that term from Donald Trump, huge mistakes that caregivers make. The first one is they don't know how to put their needs first. We learn on the airplane every single time we go. They say in the event of an emergency, the oxygen mask will fall. Put your mask on first before you help with your loved ones. Hello, what an amazing metaphor for all of life. Take care of you first, not out of selfishness, but out of survival. And if caregivers can just learn that one thing to put your needs first, that if you go down, you're all going down, then they will be ahead of the game. The second biggest mistake caregivers make, they don't know how to ask for help. Everyone's got a cell phone. For goodness sake, use it. Turn it on to dial your number and say, Mom, hello, I need help. Grandma's driving me crazy. Call your brother, call your sister, call your wife's ex-husband, call anybody, but get over that silly notion that if you can't do it all yourself, that you're a failure as a caregiver. That attitude will definitely kill you. Now, the third biggest mistake caregivers make is they allow people to guilt them, just heap on the guilt like they were stacking pancakes. I remember that sitcom back in the 70s about a caregiver who was caring for his elderly father. He was in the junk business. Maybe you remember. It was called Sanford and
Yes.
Lamont was constantly getting guilted by his father, Fred, all sorts of cockamamie harebrained schemes, and he used undeserved guilt. And it went something like this, if you remember. Oh, it's a big one. No, son, really, it's a big one. Elizabeth, I'm coming to meet you, honey. And Lamont would fall for that con every single time. And you know what? Caregivers are the same way. It's kind of like being handcuffed to your loved one for the rest of your life, a prisoner in your own home. And that kind of guilt will kill you. You take care of those 3 things, you've greatly increased your odds of staying alive, out of the morgue, and staying out of the hospital.
David,
it's not easy.
We want our audience to know that if they didn't hear it at the beginning of the show, the book is called It's My Life Too, T-O-O, by our guest David Nassaney, Nassaney. Dave, would you tell us where we can get the book?
Well, the book is everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Just type in It's My Life Too. You don't even need the apostrophe, and you will find out how to buy the book. And that book isn't just for caregivers, by the way. If you know a caregiver, that book is for them too. Because, like I said, 3 kinds of people in the world. You're either going to be one, you are one, or you're going to need one. So you just might be saving their life by buying them a book. And you asked before, what could we do to help caregivers' life? There's one right there. Buy them the book and give it to them. The next thing you
That's
can
a great
do is
idea, by the way. I like that.
Say again?
That's a great idea. It sounds so simple, but just to kind of wake them up, they got to take care of themselves first.
Another thing they can do is simply say, hey, I'm going to the store. Is there anything I can pick up for you? Saving a caregiver a trip to the store is a godsend. Or, you know what? I don't know the last time you went to a movie or you had your nails done or you just went for a massage or just went to Starbucks for a cup of coffee just to de-stress. Let me care for your loved one for 30 minutes or an hour, and just take an hour and just do whatever you want. I'm here for you. That is huge.
That I think anybody would love, and to get a break for an hour. And like you said, sometimes it might be simple. Just go to the library, go to the Starbucks, walk around the mall, and feel like a free person.
And if you're really feeling generous, give them a day off.
Wow.
And if you're like amazing, give them a weekend off.
Now, Dave, also, is there a website where we can find out more information?
Yes. I'm giving away a free copy of my first book about overcoming unbelievable hardships and a welcome pack, which will get caregivers hooked in and plugged in. And I'm giving them a free test. Are you a candidate for burnout? Go to www.freeburnoutbook.com. Freeburnoutbook.com. And that will hook you up to my free gifts. It'll send you to my website, too, a different page on the website. My website, if you want to know, is caregiverdave.com. But to get the free book, it's freeburnoutbook.com.
And we'll ask you that again later in the show, so if someone didn't get it down, they have plenty of time to get hold of the pencil, paper, or crayon, or whatever they like to write with. And again, the title of this book, It's My Life Too, by our guest David Nassaney, Nassaney. And do yourself a favor.
Don't forget that exclamation mark. There's an exclamation mark after two. So it's my life too. Dang it! And you bang the table. I mean that's the kind of message that a lot of caregivers need to get into their head.
There you go.
They sacrifice. They give it all to their loved one. But you know what? They have to value their life equally as much.
Now,
otherwise, they're going to burn out.
David, you mentioned in your book when your wife had a stroke. You trusted the paramedics. Why do you say that was wrong advice?
Well, because she'd still be healthy today. She lost her speech. She has this thing called aphasia, where she knows what she wants to say, but can't remember how to form her lips and mouth and tongue to say it. So our lives is a game of charades and Pictionary. Two games I hate, by the way, but I'm learning to love. And she can't walk because she's paralyzed on the right side, but she has a power wheelchair that we got her, 4-wheel drive, goes faster than me. So her mobility is back. We travel the world. But the paramedics, they looked at each other when I called them up. They got there quickly, and they said, yeah, she's having a stroke. We got to get her to the hospital. And we lived in Burbank at the time. There was a close, small, rinky-dink private hospital about 5 minutes from me, but there was another huge medical center, Providence, about 10 minutes further. They said, where do you want to take her? I said, I don't know. Where would you take your wife if she was having a stroke? They looked at each other and says, we'll go to the closest place. Now, if I'd have known then what I know now, I would have said, no, you take her to the medical center. Because a lot of those small hospitals, they don't even have an MRI machine. They don't have a CAT scan machine. And they wasted the 3-hour precious window that you need to do something when you're having a stroke. Otherwise, you get brain damage.
Now, how did you know? How does someone know, other than maybe obviously the very obvious thing, but if a stroke is coming on somebody and they're sitting, like say your wife, she might be sitting at the table reading the newspaper. What are the signs that, hey, this could be a stroke, better get the ambulance and get to the medical center?
Well, in those days, I didn't know anything about anything. But she had a headache for 3 days, the headache of her life. She doesn't get migraines. And she joked around, called Dr. Kevorkian to put me out of my misery, the euthanasia doctor back in the 70s. And it was a Labor Day weekend. Who wants to go to the doctor? And, we don't go to the doctor for every little ache and pain. There was only a headache, but it was getting worse. And then it got better. And then she says, I think I will go to the doctor on Tuesday because Monday was a holiday. But by the time Monday came around, it was too late. The ambulance came, and she had already suffered a stroke. They had 3 hours to get her to the hospital, but like it says, they took her to the wrong hospital. So you've got to take control of questions as simple as where should we take your wife, which hospital. Always choose the larger facility, even if it's a little further, because in my case, it was the matter of disability or no disability. And
that's a great point, because I would have made the same mistake. I would say, if one is 2 miles away and the other is 6, go for the 2 miles, get the person there. Right. And if I'm hearing you correctly, and to repeat it for our audience, if you feel someone is having a stroke or it's a medical emergency, go for the medical center in the area rather than necessarily the nearest one.
Yeah, now that may not be true 100% of the time, so I would ask the paramedics, listen, how much time do we have before, she has brain damage? If they would have said 3 hours, which is the correct answer, then I would say, definitely go to St. Joe. If they would have said, you know what, we got to get her attention, like in the next 20 minutes, let's say she's not breathing or something like that, then you may have to go for the closest facility if the paramedics can't get her breathing again. But generally,